Dude, you used to get so mad because I'd sword and air juggle you constantly. I remember because you'd be like, dude, stop hitting me with sword and airs! Oh, dude, I could explain to you why Boomy's one of the greatest twos teammates of all time. And it's because he's so consistent in both ones and twos that he can dominate a game. And then once his teammate goes off, he knows exactly how to cover that teammate.
Welcome to Season 2 of Brawlhalla Origins. This season's lineup is packed with awesome guests from various backgrounds in the Brawlhalla community. Join our VIP list by signing up at season2.brawlhallaorigins.com to get early access to each episode, special clips, giveaways, and behind-the-scenes updates. Today's guest is SillyGobi. He's a former competitive player, best known for his performance in Brawlhalla 2v2s in Mastery with the legend Thatch.
There's the sword. What was that down sig? Oh! He's still orange. He's still orange. He's recovery! Gobi did it! Gobi did it! SillyGobi wins! The Goblin himself has knocked Phazon out!
Brawlhalla Origins is presented by Brawl Academy. Brawl Academy's mission is to provide the best educational content for improving at Brawlhalla to support competition long-term by bringing in and leveling up new talent. Learn more at brawlacademy.com. Brawlhalla Origins Season 2 is sponsored by SIB Esports. Go support them and follow what they do over at esportssib.com.
Welcome to another episode of Brawlhalla Origins. Today I have with me an OG, SillyGobi. Gobi, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good. Excited to do this episode. Gobi and I have been friends for a long time now.
A long time.
Yeah. So this is going to be a fun one. For the people that are just tuning in for the first time and may not be aware, the point of Brawlhalla Origins is to interview notable members of the Brawlhalla community and learn a little bit about their history and where they came from and how they got to where they are today in the context of Brawlhalla. So I'll start with the first question that I tend to ask everyone. Gobi, how did you find Brawlhalla?
Dude, this is an interesting story. So
Okay.
I walked in my brother's room at about like 1 a.m. one night and saw he was playing with a bunch of friends. This is back in high school. I think this is roughly my senior year. That's about 7 years ago now, almost 8. God.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at it, I was like, that's not a game I'm interested in. It doesn't look good for me. And I was like, oh, but there's a cowgirl in it. Oh, there's a cowgirl in it.
A cowgirl.
Yeah. I was like, hey, now maybe I'm a little bit interested. And so it was about 2 months after that, right around December. And I was playing, if you're not familiar, I religiously play a game called Realm of the Mad God. That's like one of my favorite games of all time. 8-bit game. Awesome. I was playing with a friend of mine called Ryan. He's probably going to be watching this episode. What's up, my guy? And I was like, hey, you want to play a random game? It was like 3 a.m. I was like, you want to play a random game? And he was like, yeah, sure. And we just hopped in and played Rank 2s immediately. Then just hopped into the queue, played it for like 3 hours. And that's when I just fell in love with the game. That's the whole story.
That's awesome. Jeez. Well, speaking of Rank 2s, you got to be pretty decently known for being a pretty good 2s player for a little bit. Like, what kind of influenced your preference for 2s over 1s, do you think?
I've always been a big team guy. I mean, I've played basketball my entire life. I've never been one to... I played tennis for a little bit, but I've never been one to be particularly a fan of solo sports. And it's that the camaraderie aspect of it really draws me to any sport that has a team aspect in it. And playing 2s with the teammates, you and another person, but there's always when you're teaming with me, it's gonna be a fun time. It's serious in tournament, but it's always gonna be jokes outside.
Right.
So I just like to have fun.
Nice. Okay. Let's take it back a little bit. So you got started, you jumped in 2s, you played Rank 2s for a few hours. Can you walk me through like what a little bit of your progression was like kind of in the early days? Like,
okay,
when you started, about how long did it take you to get to Diamond, for example?
I have all the statistics for you, dude. I had it written down for the longest time because I tracked my progress. You'll know that the longer this interview goes on, I have to write stuff down, and I'm always like, I'll write paragraphs of stuff. You can ask anybody that I've coached. I write legitimate pages. And so I hit Diamond at 350 hours. That's a lot more than the average time for any other professional that you would know and that you've interviewed. It's like, oh yeah, it was like 100 hours. Like Noel was sitting there. I actually watched him grow up. That's a story that we'll get into. It took me 350 hours to get diamond, but the biggest aspect, the biggest hurdle for me was all mental. I had the skills, but that was always, and that's gonna be the biggest struggle that I've had to tackle. And that's when I had the most growth, is when I did tackle that, wasn't the mental side of the game. And it took me an extra 100 hours to get to 2200, and then it's just slow progression. I'd always bounce around between 400 elo. It wasn't like, oh, I went to 22 to 23 and I just stayed in that range. Oh no, I would go from 22 to 1700 to 22 to 1700. Like, I'm talking a daily thing, because it was all here. I would just play when I raged. I wouldn't just stop. It took a lot of training and trial and error to figure out what works for me in terms of my improvement.
So when you say that you struggled a little bit with like the mental side of the game, like, do you have any, like, I know you've coached a lot of players. What do you tend to tell them about, like, sort of the mental aspect of Brawlhalla?
The biggest thing is not to let losses affect you. And I know that's cliche. It's like, oh, you just don't, when you lose, don't get mad, use it as a learning opportunity. But it's one of the most important things for anybody. Even when you're out in the real world, you're going to have stuff that's not going to go right. But it's more so changing the mindset to view it more as a step in the right direction. Like, you're learning a lot more from failure than you would with success. Like 90% of the time. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, no, I 100% agree. I did an article recently for Brawl Academy that was like mindset shifts to make when you're playing Brawlhalla, and one of them is like losing is learning. Like,
it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, they don't teach you that in school. I mean, they do to a degree, but it's not heavily focused. It's like when you fail, that's like a bad thing in school. And you know, I'm a teacher now. For those of you know, nobody will know, but I'm a teacher now, and that's what I tell my students. Like, failing in my class isn't a bad thing. I'm just going to talk to you about it, and we're going to explain. I'm going to explain to you how you can get back on the road to being in a better grade and a better position. And that's a part of being a teenager. I'm a high school teacher. Is you have to grow every year, or as much as you can.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so roughly 350 hours to diamond. Like, what was the process like? What did it look like to practice for you? Like, was there like a
I was like
thing that you did?
I was like Daiku. I'd play for 10 hours a day. Just constant grinding. And see, this is part of the learning process. I learned that I'm not that type of a player. I learn a lot more when I play anywhere between an hour to 4 hours, and 4 hours is my longest end. Like, if I go past that, it's not practice anymore because my mind isn't fully there.
Right.
So for me, like, my practice sessions nowadays, when I'm trying to get back to being a professional player, it's 1 to 2 hours. I won't play more than that unless I'm really feeling it.
Okay. And then what other things do you do, like, outside of just grinding? Is it...
I have a story to tell. So BCX 2016, the first BCX, I ended up not being able to go because I pinched a nerve in this right elbow. Had to get a cortisone injection in it. I couldn't use it for months. I think it was like 3 or 4 months that I couldn't play Brawlhalla properly. So what I did, instead of playing for 10 hours a day, I would watch people play for 10 hours a day. This is when I got absolutely obsessed with the game. I wanted to learn the insides and outsides. I was messaging players. You can ask any old pro. I think I may have had 2,000 conversations with them, just talking about stuff like, hey, when you approach this guy in neutral, because I would learn that there's people that do better in different play styles. So now it's about learning how they approach the game so that my understanding can be better for when I play against them. So it became a giant interview process. I just learned as much as I could in those 3 to 4 months, and that helped me get on track whenever I did and was able to play again.
Nice. Okay. That's actually... I don't think I've ever heard that story, actually. So
yeah.
That's really interesting.
Because right when I got back, 2017 is the biggest... I went from barely diamond whenever I healed up from my injury to 2600 in a matter of weeks. Like legitimately. That's the biggest jump in skill that I've ever had. And it's purely because I was so prepared with information. All it was putting it into a practical sense.
Okay. So how did you go about translating, like, the information that you gathered from, like, the research into actual, like, gameplay?
I'm so happy you're asking these questions, because I was going to be a neurologist. I'm very interested in how the brain functions, right? So I've done a bunch of research, and I didn't want to do the 7 years of school. So I went to be an IT guy. So there's actually what professionals will do in other sports when they can't and they're too tired to actually practice, they'll do mental image training. So I do a version of that with Brawlhalla training mode. Well, I'll set the bot up in a situation that I want to practice, and you can set dodges, whatever, but I will set up a position that I'm unfamiliar with, and I will constantly imagine that we're in a game, and I just like landed, and I'm just going natural motion. Because if you do robotic, where you just set it up and then you just keep doing it, it's muscle memory, but you're not actually training to react in live time. So I'll do some like moves around with a move and try to create as a realistic situation as possible. And then I will do the punish. And that's what helped me translate very quickly into the game, was that mental image training. And then I'll just go play ranked. If that's my warm-up session, I'll do mental image training as a warm-up session, and then I'll go straight into ranked. I don't even go experimental, currently at least.
Wow. That's... How would you explain to someone how to even
do that?
Yeah.
So this is where experience really helps, because if you've already... Because Axe was my biggest issue for the longest time. That was the one weapon I could never figure out. So that's what I did the most training with. I would actually play Axe and do the same situations. And this is helpful for anybody who struggles with a specific weapon matchup, right? I would really go into training mode, set up the same situations that I tend to do, which is like, for example, one thing I always did when I got hit by a dare, I'd dodge to the side, get hit by a downlight, and now I'm in a juggle position with nairs, right? So I would do the same thing, and I would try to do different dodges out of that, and to see what else I could do, you know, in terms of defensive stuff. That's the biggest thing I struggled with, was defense. And so once I got that down, then I could do more. And so I just consistently did that with every weapon, every signature, you know, learning, okay, so this is what I need to do to move slightly over this move, right? I can't, don't be scared, blah. And I would just constantly do that with every weapon and every legend until I just build my knowledge base.
Nice. Okay. So training room sounds like it is like essential to
me,
the way that you learned. Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about sort of your competitive career for a bit. Walk me through like some of your like early breakout performances, like leading up to them, and like. So
my first twos teammate was Antipop, one of the legends of the community. Sadly passed away many years ago, but he was the guy that actually got me into the competitive scene. I played a ranked ones match against him, and he was like, dude, you have potential, join my clan. I think it was called Inertia at the time. And that was one of the biggest clans. And then eventually, a few months down that line, we became twos partners, because he was like, dude, you're good enough, you can be good. And so he was the one that kind of taught me how to be a professional, in a sense of approaching the game in a different light. Like, I had the training down, but I had to get that competitiveness, where now I look forward to the tough matchups. I don't shy away from playing against the Sandstorms and whatnot. I think I have like pretty decent records against a lot of them, just because I don't shy away. I'm not scared of them. When I see them in bracket, I'm like, I'll take it. If I lose, I lose. And so that mindset carried me. And then I think the first breakout performance I can think of would have to be playing with him. I think we ended up getting a 5th. I couldn't name the tournament for you, because this is back when challenge, however you want to say it. That's when the tournaments were kept. There was no Brawlhalla circuit until like 2017.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, early mid 2017. That's when the first Brawlhalla circuit was there. And so all these earlier brackets, that's when I had my breakout performances. So whenever the actual tournaments became a thing, where Brawlhalla put money in, that's whenever I was already placing pretty well. I was in that consistent top 9 at that time. It was purely because of him. And then by this point, I'm already bouncing around between partners, and I'm placing well with different partners here and there. And that's in my whole story. It's just having different partners, placing top 8s, and then getting dropped, picking up a new guy, placing top 8, get dropped. That's my kind of like my career.
Well, what do you think? Like you have, for a long time, you were proving that you were capable of top 8ing with like all different types of players.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think it is that makes your playstyle really good in twos?
So how I coach people in twos, and this is very beneficial to anybody who's trying to figure out how to play twos with somebody. It's hard to do with somebody you don't know. So what I would do is I'd actually sit and I'd ask my teammate, hey, can you just play ranked ones? And I would memorize their playstyle. Like I would look, okay, so that's the reaction I have to go off of that hit. That's the reaction I have to go off of that edge guard. So whenever they're in this certain positioning, I can help them. So my biggest thing and the reason why I play so well is because I memorized every single playstyle. Even whenever I competed against people, I would sit there and try to memorize my opponent's playstyle so I can use it against them. It's the reason why I was so good against LDZ in twos, is because I knew how he reacted in edge guard situations, specifically in twos. Because he would always trust his teammate to help him when recovering, so he'd always fade out. So everything that I would do is always fading out, and I'd always edge guard him. And he would even message me, "How do you know where I'm going?" Like I always get confirmed specifically against you, and it's because I know. Like, I just know. So that's my biggest thing, is that if you understand how your teammate likes to react, you can help them. That's a big reason why I don't do a lot of damage in twos. I enable my teammate to do more, and I cover them. It's the reason why me and Simba, that my best placing teammate was Simba. It's because he was like a guy all over the place, mashing around, pressure everywhere, and then I'm sitting there covering him. I always call myself an annoying gnat that was always just around, just long enough to where you couldn't punish him, and he would just do 800 damage a game. Didn't bother me.
That's awesome. So in twos, there's kind of like the different roles that you can play in twos, and it sounds like you're very kind of decidedly in the support role.
I am. Well, the best teams have partners that can do both. It just depends on who's on in the game.
Okay. What I think. So I'm glad that you said that, because I feel like you're in a pretty good position to kind of like talk a little bit about what makes some of the great 2v2 teams so great.
Oh, dude, I could explain to you why Boomy's one of the greatest twos teammates of all time. And it's because he's so consistent in both ones and twos that he can dominate a game. And then once his teammate goes off, he knows exactly how to cover that teammate. Like, it's crazy. I mean, then you have Blaze over at EU, who's very similar. He can carry games, but he doesn't need to.
Yeah. What do you think? So with some of the, you watched a lot of 2v2s at BCX this year, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I was there almost the entire time.
So the whole Godly Zen team up.
Yeah, that's fun.
That one was, them winning BCX was like a big deal. It was like a cross-region team, EU and NA. What do you think it was that made them click so well?
So that it's both Godly and Zen. I mean, before his name was Cutie, but I think Godly being able to adapt to any teammate that he has, because he already has a history of being able to team with whoever and win tournaments in EU. The biggest thing that I noticed when I was watching the both of them is that the confidence. There was like absolutely no fear in anything that they did. And that's something that I tell whenever I'm coaching or whenever I'm helping somebody out. You can't have confidence issues. It's the reason why I'm having issues right now and improving is because I just don't have confidence, because I'm still learning this new dash tech that has come out, and I complain about it forever. But I'm in the middle and I'm having confidence issues myself, so I know that that's what helped them win. Is because like no matter what situation they were in, whether they were down or whether they were up, they were always confident, and they always knew like, hey, when I hit this, you go for this. There was no like, oh, like pauses, like, oh, like no clunkiness is how the best term that I can think of explaining it. There was always smooth progressions in every part of neutral, and that's why they were always consistently winning. Even if they weren't up in the set, when they did win, they were winning hard. Or if they did win those close games, it's because they weren't panicking in the situations that normally a normal person would panic.
What do you think is a good way to practice twos, like when you're working with a teammate?
When you're working with a teammate, this is where it gets interesting, because it depends on what type of a teammate you have. If you have a hard grinding teammate, the easiest thing that I've seen is work on combos every single day, because that's going to help them. Because some people, are more hands-on learners. Other people like me, I can study a book and I'll be perfectly fine. But other people need to actually do stuff. So if you have a hard grinding teammate, you need to help them understand what you want by actually going in and taking 15 minutes before every 2 session and actually warming up properly and setting those expectations early, so that whenever you do go into a game, there's no mess ups or screw ups, and you can communicate better, because then it's like, oh, if you did mess up, it's like, hey, just make sure that when I hit this combo starter, but you weren't there, and it's like, okay, well, we worked on this combo before. You just got to be able to react in that situation, and then it becomes more of a beneficial conversation instead of a big blame game.
Right.
Once blame game starts, that's when two teams drop like flies.
Right. Tell me a little bit about how you like when you're working with when you're either working with a teammate or you're coaching people that are playing twos, like how do you teach them how to like respond and be available to each other, like that sort of like the awareness of what's going on with your teammate?
I have video. I usually go back and record from either games that I've played or tournament sets, and I actually show them different examples of, hey, whenever your teammate gets in this bad of a situation, sometimes it's better not to punish immediately, but to actually wait, because you know what's coming. Like if you know a Sayer's coming off that says the combo finisher, sometimes it's better to let your teammate get hit by that D-Light Sayer on Spear, but interrupt the kill confirm. Or if you can get there early enough, you can interrupt the combo before it even begins. But it just depends on the situation. And that is sometimes the hardest things to explain, especially to a younger person who may not understand that there is more than just one option. Like there's there is no clear perfect option in every scenario, and you're not going to be able to do that. So the way I usually teach situational awareness is I'll show them different things. And I'm like, however you feel the most comfortable doing this is the best answer. Like you can change how comfortable you get with certain options, but whatever you feel the most confident in, that's going to be your answer until you train to do a different thing.
Gotcha. All right, so let's take a break from talking about twos and come back again to a little bit more about your history. So let's say 2017, Brawlhalla circuit has started. You're doing good in twos. Like, what's kind of like the path for you there? Like, what's how did you do in placements? Like, what was your progression? Tell me a little bit about like actually competing once the tournament like series is started.
So for me, the biggest thing was like, you know, of course, playing with a high level teammate's always fun. But for me, it was about always growing with every tournament. So every time that I would play a tournament, we'd always take the next day and go back and look at replays. And, you know, replays. Everybody gets annoyed whenever people talk about replays. But it's honestly the most beneficial thing, because in tournament, you're going to play differently. You're not going to play exactly how you play in ranked. Like that one situation you're super comfortable in like a ranked match, you may not do at all in tournament. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't notice that before. So that was going to be the biggest progression there, was being able to go back and look at myself, because I may be super good at coaching other people. I mean, all my twos teammates, most of my twos teammates have gone on to place better than me whenever after they dropped and went to go play with somebody else. And it's just because I was harping always improvement. It doesn't matter where we place. I'd be upset that we'd get a 13th every once in a while, but I was more so looking forward to the next tournament because we got beneficial information. And that's when the more I did that, the better my placements got. There was a point where I was always a 7th to 5th placer every tournament. And then it moved up to 5th to 4th for a little bit. So I had a whole year where I think I only placed top like 8th maybe, or 7th maybe a handful of times, but then I was always that top 5. So trying to break into that top 5 was always the toughest thing for me. And it wasn't a mental thing. It was just a skill gap. It was always just like that one hit behind. I'd always get caught once, or my teammate would get caught once. That was the biggest weakness that I've noticed with my teams throughout the years, is that there was always be that one time where we'd miss cover and it would be one big combo, and that one combo just separates the entire game. And, you know, sometimes it's really hard to catch up, especially when you're playing against Boomy Remy, or, you know, the early onset of Sandstorm Ethan, or, you know, Cody Travis Isidru back when they were a team. Those were like the older ones. Those were my demons. And it's because they were always so scarily consistent, and when they had a lead, they knew how to play with it. And so actually the time where I actually broke that was before I retired for the first time in 2019, before COVID, was when me and Tiffany were playing. And this was a tournament where I was like, Tiffany, I'm not playing for results. I'm playing to have a good time. I think we ended up laughing more in this whole entire tournament than ever. But I think we went on winner's side top 5. Or maybe it was a nasty loser. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. But the entire time, I didn't even care. I was letting her do the brackets and stuff. I was just enjoying life. And then I wasn't even paying attention to where we were at in the bracket. I think we ended up placing 4th. And I was like, oh, we got 4th? Win.
Right.
Like, I wasn't paying attention at all. So, and I think that's another big aspect when it came to competing, is that I did take it seriously, but I wasn't so hard on myself to the fact that I would rage. Like, you know, Ethan, he plays better when he gets mad. You want him to get more mad because he always plays better when he gets very upset. And if you have watched him stream, that's how it works. For me, when I get mad, I lose focus really easy. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I focused on as a competitor. It's like when I get mad, I know how to calm myself down. And that's again, mental aspect. When I get mad, I get really mad. So I had to work on controlling that anger and actually using it to help better my gameplay. So that's when it became like Zen mode, you know, because I have so many stories, dude.
Well, let's talk a little bit about events and traveling and like seeing people. Like, it's been like, man,
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, what would you say is one of your favorite lands from like the pre-COVID era?
There's only one. The hometown tournament, Low Tier City 2019. Straight here in Arlington, Texas. My favorite LAN event of all time.
Man, I wish I could have gone to that one. That was like one of the ones that I constantly kick myself for not being able to go.
Dude,
there.
it's beautiful. That whole stadium and setup was awesome. It had to have been. I think it's still in my top 5, or it would be in other people's top 5 that went. Like, of course, the BCXs are the best events, but I think this is one of the single best non-BCX like World Championship events that I've ever been to.
Yeah. No, the setup for that was insane. Like, the production, the stage design, like just
it was awesome.
It's like the coolest stage I think I've ever seen Brawlhalla played on that's not a BCX, for sure.
Well, that's also the only tournament that I placed top 8 in both 1s and 2s.
Oh, okay.
I teamed with Kostlix for that event. And then I ended up, I mean, you can see it on the YouTube history if you actually look me up. I beat Phazon to get into top 8 winners, a loser side of 1s. And there's a whole story behind that, too. I woke up with 1s and with a migraine. I wasn't even planning to go in. My mom was like, "Oh, no, you paid for this event. You're going to go and you're going to compete." And I was like, "Oh, okay, Mom, but I'll go up and do it." I was talking with Kostlix before the event. I was like, "Dude, I can't play." And he was like, No, you're going to focus. And Kostlix came in clutch for me here. It's like, let's get you warmed up. You're going to do well today. Just play against me. And he would 3-stop me constantly. I was like, "Dude, don't worry about it. You're going to play better when it comes to the actual tournament." And it just so happened. That's exactly what happened. I just continuously popped off. I couldn't even think about the game, dude. I think my brain was turned off the entire time because I couldn't play with headphones on because the sound was like shaking my brain.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why the comments in the videos are, "Why doesn't he have a headset on?" I was like, dude, because that random drop that happened like halfway through the set between me and Phazon jolted me awake. I was in a trance almost. Like that entire time, I was thinking more about the pain than I was playing the game. But that training, I guess, that I've done my entire life leading up to that event just kind of took over, and I beat Phazon, and then I was drained after that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, yes, I get to play on the main stage on 1s for the first time in my career. Let's go. And then Photo comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, you're going to be playing your set against Ethan next." And I was like, "Huh? I don't get to be on the big stage tomorrow?" "No, we're going to go to top 5 today." "What do you do?" "I don't have the energy." So I was sitting in the sidelines. Wilson was trying to hype me up. He was like, "Dude, you got it. Ethan's easy. Don't worry about him." Blah, blah, blah. I was like, "Dude, I don't have the energy, man. I'm so tired."
Damn.
And then Ethan, he knew I was tired, so he just played the slow game. And I was like, afterwards, I was like, "Dude, you knew exactly what to do." He was like, "Yeah, I knew you were tired." So I just didn't engage. He was like, "Enough respect."
Damn.
He knew. But that's my favorite event.
Yeah, that's unfortunate how that turned out, but yeah, I remember watching that set versus Phazon. The stream was hype.
Oh, so,
yeah.
You hear Sandstorm and Boomy in the background go, "Let's go, Gobi!" I remember hearing that, and then I hit the weapon throw down and the gravity cancel downlight recovery that should have ended the set, but it was a really fun tournament. Would 100% do it again.
Nice. Yeah, no, that whole tournament looked so cool. I wish
it was
I could have
awesome.
Gone. How about outside of that one? Any interesting stories from other events?
Yes, I think it was BCX 2017, and it's only because that was the first LAN event where I didn't go without my parents. I went without my brother and my parents, and actually is Duke and Sheepy picked me up and took me to the airport, and I flew with them. Like they were like almost my parents for that event.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went with them. You keep in mind, I barely ever went out growing up, so I'm out here by myself, and I was so thankful that they were there with me.
Oh yeah,
because they were like guiding me around, doing all this other stuff, and so I have a very special connection with those two specifically, just from that event alone.
That's awesome. No, Duke and Sheepy are great.
They're awesome.
I think everybody wants them to be their parents. it's been like, why did Gobi? Why did we never team,
Dude? Hey man, listen, I don't know. Whenever I was actually good, I had people asking me to team constantly.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. I couldn't give you a straight answer. Maybe there was somebody else that asked me that I said yes to, because I don't drop people, dude. I think I dropped only one person in my career, and that was I think Stevenator.
Yeah. Back then I was very like dead set on teaming with Narwhal. So
yeah, and that was back when you were in your Narwhal days. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
So no, me and Narwhal had a good time. Those were the days.
He's a funny dude.
Yeah, no, I love Narwhal. He let's talk a little bit about like all of the different teammates that you've had, like, because you have teamed. Yeah, you have teamed with a lot of people at this point.
So let's see. Let's go in order here. So I've top 8'd with Antipop, and this was before BCX events. I've top 8'd with Stevenator. Have a funny story with that. We can talk about that one later. Who did I team with after Steve? I think it goes straight to Tiffany. And Tiffany was actually somebody who wasn't even a top placer at the time. Me and her would always fight in ones. Like we would constantly be on the lower side. We'd always be in the same bracket. And that connection that we established there, I was like, hey, you just want to try twos? Because I had just been dropped by some. No, I think me and Steve just got off. I'm trying to remember if I was teaming with somebody before. Oh no, it was after me and Starlight placed top 8 at BCX 2017. And he went to go play with Astro again because Astro couldn't make it to BCX 2017.
Right.
And so I was looking for a partner, and I was like, hey, Tiffany, you just want to play? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I worked with her, and she ended up winning 2018 winners in ones.
Yeah, I remember.
And I coached her for that. I coached her the entire time. She was a sponge. She would absorb everything I said, and she became better than me. And now I learned from her for the last couple of months that I was playing with her. So so that it goes Antipop into Stevenator into Starlight for BCX 2017, and then to Tiffany, and then me and her team for a year, like the whole year, maybe a little bit more than that. And that was my first teammate that I got fifths with on like the actual BCX, like Brawlhalla events. And then after Tiffany, that's when I picked up Simba. I don't even remember how me and Simba met. I'm trying to remember. I think it may have been through a Discord. Oh, I forgot Wrenched was in there too between.
I forgot you did play with Wrenched, didn't you?
Between Stevenator and Starlight, there was Wrenched, and me and him team. This is when Wrenched was 13, Squeaker. Always, like, he was super young, and I was like 18, adults. And then, so me and him teamed, and we teamed for a few LAN events. And so me and him are also really good friends. Everybody that I've teamed with, I'm still really good friends with. And so it went from there, and now we're back to after Tiffany was Simba 100%. And then the best placements I've ever had were with Simba. Like, we had pop-off tournaments. I think one of my favorite tournaments of all time is going to be that Autumn's Championship 2017 to 2018. I'm trying to remember which one it is, because I did the what's it called? That 2v1 clutched against Sandstorm and Ethan, game 4. We were down for 7th place, and so I 2v1 them to go for a game 5, and then I dumpstered Ethan first stock of game 5, and that was fun. And then the next set we play against Boomy Remy, and Boomy Remy, they were a dominating team, and they go up 2-0 in an easy fashion, and then me and Simba lock in and do a reverse 3-0 against them. And then after that we play against Tiffany, Starlight. That's 2 of my ex-partners. I want to beat them. And that was a game 5 set. We ended up beating them, and then we did another game 5 set, I believe against Cody, Travis, and Isidru, or somebody that was really, really good in losers finals, and that was a game 5 set that we lost there. So that has to be one of my favorite tournament runs, because it was just upset after upset after upset.
I think I actually remember the casting. This is around the time that casting in Brawlhalla started getting really good too, and they had started talking a little bit more about like the player storylines and stuff. Because I actually think I remember them talking about the set versus Tiffany and Starlight because of like making references to the fact that they were both previous teammates of yours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Foda, that's when Foda came up with the nickname for me. I was the 2v2 glue. Like, I was the glue guy. I could team with anybody in place. Like, that's when esports was really picking up with nicknames, trying to establish storylines, stuff like that.
You said you had a funny story about you placing with Stevenator.
Yes. So this was a tournament. This was still when challenge was a thing. It was a tournament that we'd woken up for, and he woke up in the morning. We got into a voice call, and he sounded terrible. He was like,
no.
"Gobi, I have a 104 fever. I'm so sick, but we're gonna top 8." And we ended up going to losers, like second round of the bracket. And so we made a long losers run. And in the middle of one of the sets, Stevenator's mom comes in. He's like, "Steve, honey, I brought you some soup so that you could be like." She knew that he was competing, so that you could play better. And I was like, I just started busting out laughing during this losers run. And so he's sitting there slurping his soup in between sets, just like eating it. But he's like dying. He's like, "Oh, I feel so bad, man. We could have top 3." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm happy that you were like here. You could be sleeping right now."
Right.
So yeah, that's still one of my fondest memories. I still remember it very vividly. That whole entire run was hilarious because we went from a deep, I think it was like an 11 round losers run from wherever we were at to a top 8.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned somewhere earlier in the call about having another story. I don't suppose you have any idea.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, Noel, and how I watched Noel's growth.
Yeah.
In early 2017, I was in a clan called PSG. It was owned by Provocaz and a bunch of other people. I was a part of this group. It was going to be one of the first organizations. Like, we were working on being one of the first organizations in Brawlhalla. Like, we were working on deals, stuff like that. I don't know what he was doing in the background. Provocaz was leading it all. But Noel joined, and he was a gold at the time. And I was like, who's this guy? Oh, this guy has a bunch of potential, really cool dude. And so I'm like, well, I want to play against him. And he wasn't that good in the beginning, but not even a month later, I'm looking at the leaderboards and he's the best one in our clan. And it's not even by a close margin. It's like 200 elo better. And so now I was actually jealous of him for the longest time because of how fast he improved until I talked to him, because I didn't even know him. I didn't even talk to him in voice call. I was always typing over him. And then I met him at the first LAN. And, he's like 6'5", giant, muscled up. And I was like, oh, what's up, dude? How's it going? But no, he's in now. I mean, I've had so many conversations with him about mentality and stuff, and we have both very similar mindsets in terms of how to improve. But he was just better at executing that because we're both not very naturally talented players. We have to grind and watch film and replays and all the other stuff. And he just did a way better job because he went on to win multiple lands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that story, like I don't even think he remembers being a part of it because I remember bringing it up. He was like, "Really? Really?" And I was like, "Yeah. Well, you were like a gold at the time, and I watched you improve."
I know that Noel has a bit of a notoriously bad memory.
Yeah, he does.
so I think even he would agree with that. I'm pretty sure.
No, yeah, I've watched the growth of a lot of really good players, and that's because I was always very big into growing players. I don't mind having competitors. I know there's some people right now that won't coach me because they know that I have the potential to be good. I've had top players like straight up, "Hey, do you mind if I take your coaching?" They're like, "No, because I know you can be good, so I don't want to coach you." I'm like, full respect to that. I'm the complete opposite mindset. I actually take time and go into streams and find people who were streaming that were like plat. And I'd be like, "Yo, dude, hey, how's it going?" And they'd recognize my name because they follow the competitive scene. I would just there and talk to them, and I'd help them out. And I watched them, and I think there was many people that would be like, "Yeah, he helped me get into Diamond. He helped me get into 24, 2500." And it's just because I don't mind having better competition because that helps me be better because now I've taught you all this stuff, and then you have stuff that you can teach me. Like I can take, it's like more like a give and take on both sides.
Right.
So that was one of my favorite pastimes, just go and find people and helping them out.
Yeah, honestly, that is a big part of why I'm building Brawl Academy. I
love it.
I want more people to get good at Brawlhalla because I think that like the competitive scene thrives when you continuously have new blood coming into it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So if we can kind of like nurture sort of like the more casual audience to make them more competitive, like the ones that have the interest, and like help them get there, you just constantly have new players coming in and getting good at the game.
There's a lot of people that just don't have that opportunity. They may have the drive and the learning ability to get good really quickly, but because there's such a big information, like not hiding, I'm trying to find a better term, but there's like the protection
Yeah,
Like, top players don't want to tell anything. They're
Yeah.
keep it behind a paywall. And I'm like,
Right.
well, I want this information to just be out. Like, I don't mind it. And that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that I have an issue with, but that happens in everything. Like every
Yeah.
sport. There's
Yeah.
always going to be people that get good and they're like, well, I won't tell you anything unless you pay me. Or they'll just hide it.
Yeah, people tend to try to keep things close to their chest, like especially if they discover something.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think it's interesting how there's like two different mindsets on this, like where like some people will find tech and like try to keep it to themselves. It's like eventually it's going to get discovered when you use it in an event. And so once you use it in public, you got your one chance to like take advantage of it. And now everybody knows what it is because everybody's watched this tournament.
Yeah.
And now you've like reset to a new position like where you were before, because now that everybody else is taking advantage of it, you now have to learn how to deal with this thing that everybody else has started to take advantage of.
That's what Boomy did. For many years, Boomy would find something broken, and he'd be openly a bro. He'd be like, "Hey, this is broken," and then nobody believed him, and he would just win a tournament with it, and then BMG would promptly nerf it, and he was like, "Cool, finds the next broken thing. This is broken," and he'd be on stream. "This is broken. I'm doing this, and this is broken." And I'm like, "No, it's not broken." And then he wins the tournament. BMG nerfs it. Cool. And then it was so funny because I remember thinking that's not that broken. What was one of them? What was one thing he abused? It had to have been a weapon of some sort. Maybe it was early guns. I don't remember, but he would just be like, "Yeah, guys, I'm doing this."
I mean,
like
back in the day, guns were pretty
nasty because that's back when nair recovery was true.
Ugh.
At a certain point, because you would hit that very close nair, and then you just jump up recovery, and that's when it was true. So you hit like nair, and then they would dodge, and you hit a nair, and then you hit like that small part of the nair, and then you just get a free recovery every single time.
No, that's gross.
It was awesome. I loved it. As a grown player, loved it. It was so easy,
bro. Like, I think newer players that have like kind of come up during the COVID era, or like since like 2019 or so,
they're blessed.
Like, right? They don't understand.
Listen. We had a time where there was no fast fall.
Oh,
there was no fast fall.
So there's
the jumps were doubled. Like there was you couldn't cancel it, and so the jump height was high. The game was so much more slow paced. Then they introduced fast fall, and then they introduced gravity canceling.
Yeah, no, like
the game has changed.
Brawlhalla's evolved significantly, but like I was just thinking. You went even farther back. I was just thinking in terms of like weapon balance related things.
True.
Like I think there's people that may not know that Spear D-Light used to hit grounded. For example.
Yeah.
Like you could pick people up off the ground with Spear D-Light.
Twos used to be just vortex combos. There was no DI, so you just catch them on the neutral line. They was a guaranteed stock every single time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that and. Oh man,
the game's evolved.
It makes me miss players like Astronaut.
Yeah, I talked to him about this because me and him actually had to compete for Starlight as a twos partner in the 2017 season. So we became naturally much closer just because we were in that ongoing battle for that entire summer, that entire off season to try to have him as a teammate. And so I remember talking to him years after he stopped playing, and he was like, "Dude, I couldn't play in today's game. Why? I only knew how to abuse the triple dodge meta, the chase dodge meta, where you're just dodge. He's like, that's the only thing I was good at. Like, I could be good at this, but that's all I knew. So it would take me forever to get this stuff down.
Dude was a master of that Grando Spear D-Light, too.
His Satori used to drive me insane.
Yeah.
He was a beast.
Yeah. It's, man. Yeah, Brawlhalla was a very different game. Like
it was a different game every year, legitimately. I don't think until the past couple, like since COVID era, since the COVID, it's been similar.
Yeah, about 2019, I think, is where things started to like really solidify. I think, and things got more consistent.
Doggos. I know that struggle.
Out of nowhere too. It's like there's nothing even happening. It's like perfectly quiet here.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the toughest things to explain to like the newer age people. Where I'm complaining about this new balance thing with the new dash.
Oh, the dash stuff, yeah.
And I'm sitting here complaining. I was like, "Hey, dude, just adapt." And I'm like, "Dude, I've adapted my entire life. I don't think you'll understand. Every year I had a new game to adapt to. Like, you're sitting here, all you have to do is like, oh, I can step to the ground now. I had to be like, well, I can't do triple chase dodge, so I have to learn a whole new movement every single year. I only have an issue with how fast it is. I don't have an issue with it altogether.
Yeah. That's probably my only complaint about it too. Is it's just it makes online play.
Oh, but almost impossible. If you have above 60 ping.
It makes online play really painful, and that was the thing that made Brawlhalla what it was just really, really solid online play.
Yeah, and I actually had a conversation with Coslex about this, and I brought up the same point. I was like, I just don't think it's healthy for the online gameplay. And he was like, well, why should we balance around online? And I was like, do you realize where it came from?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, online is the backbone of Brawlhalla, basically.
Well, and he's tried, and Coslex and how he thinks, he's thinking more so on the side of LANs and events like that, because that's what gets the most views, is those events. And it makes sense. Like, his points make sense.
It feels great on LAN.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome on LAN. But I don't think it was hard for him to understand my point, and I understood his point. I just didn't fully agree with it. And so we ended up just coming to a conversation to agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. And so, but we came from an online only type thing. We didn't have our first Brawlhalla event till what? 27 now. Or it had to be like middle of 2016. Because that's when Zaloxley won the first tournament Combo Breaker. That was like the first actual LAN event.
Interesting. Okay.
You want to know the story of how I got into Thatch?
Sure.
This is a whole thing. I thought Thatch was the worst legend in the game.
I think a lot of people
longest time.
I think a lot of people may still think that Thatch is one of the worst legends in the game.
No, but listen. So I was sitting here. I was a Lance main. For anybody who doesn't know, I was one of the OG Lance guys. I was actually the person that labbed Lance gimps. So you're welcome for that. I figured out every type of Lance gimp. I did it in tournament and ranked. I have so many clips of me that I have saved in an old Brawlhalla clip folder of me making ranked comebacks against every pro you could think about, just by hitting one side lights air. And so that's how I got my beginning, was through Lance. And then I really hated Thatch. I was like, I really don't like the way he operates. He doesn't have a coverage sig. Like, his end sig is fully just horizontal. Like, it's horrible. I'm going to play him. I'm going to place with him. And that's how I got started. And then I slowly figured out that his sword is just ridiculously good. And then I figured out how to use that NSIG. Because if you go back and watch my clip or my set versus face on, I hit NSIGs. I think I hit like 7 or 8 of them to confirm games, if not confirm stocks. And it's just because that SIG is ridiculously good at covering the ground. So as I figured out this smaller tech, that's when I became better and better. And I actually had to convince Tiffany to let me play Thatch and twos, because I was really good at Lance. She's like, no, what? Keep playing Roland. What are you doing? And I'm like, hey. So I came to an agreement, right? I get to play Thatch for the first game of every set leading into winners. Once we get into winners, I only play Lance. Once I get into losers, I'll play Thatch for the first game of every set. If we go into top 8, I will stop, and I'll play only Lance. So after that agreement, that's when I got more and more tournament experience with Thatch, and then it became my best character. And then Tiffany was like, you know what? Just play him.
Just play Thatch.
Yeah. Just play Thatch. I don't know how you're surviving on this character. Just play him. And so then we just started placing top 8 consistently from there.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. There's a whole little backstory just behind that character. And now that's like, my name is synonymous with that character, albeit a lot of people think Llama. That's like the best Thatch of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, Llama's really good at Thatch too.
Llama's extremely good with Thatch. He just has not later placements, but like he has the most recent high placements with the character. Mm-hmm. So I can respect it. He's a really cool guy too.
You mentioned you got to be pretty well known for being a Lance player. When you first started, did you start playing Lance like in the beginning, or was that something that you kind of jumped into later on?
No. So my first character that I ever mained was Sentinel.
Okay.
I got into the game for Cassidy. Played Cassidy, didn't like her because guns were too hard for me at that point. So I picked Sentinel and just started pressing the SIG button. Pretty good success with that. Yeah, really broken back in the day because the down SIG on Hammer had no end lag. So I could just do a down SIG whiff and a neutral light wake up consistently for free. So, and then I was really interested in Scarlet. I liked the smoke sig, the Lance D sig, and that was my favorite sig of all time back then.
That sig was very broken back
then.
then.
Yeah, well, Cossacks had to get it nerfed. I didn't even abuse it the way he did.
Yeah.
And so that character, because I really like the hammer, I was a really big hammer guy as well. So that character fit my mold of like, okay, well, I have the lance and I have the hammer and I have really good kill power. So I played that, and then I actually started playing Bodvar because this is around the time when Twilight, one of the first BCX2's winners, played with Daiku. He took me under his wing as a 2's teammate, and we'd play ranked all the time because I would be on until 3 a.m. So he was like, dude, there's nobody else for me to play with on stream. I'll play with you. And that's how we became really good friends. And he taught me a bunch of stuff, but he'd only let me play if I played Bodvar. Like he doesn't want the Scarlet because I'd always hit him. He's like, you have to play sword. So I'm going to teach you how to play sword.
Nice.
And so he taught me how to play sword, and I was like, hey, can we come to a happy medium? Can I play Roland? Yeah, you can play Roland, sure. And I was like, awesome. So that was my 3 characters for the longest time until I played Thatch, was Scarlet, Roland, and Bodvar.
Wow. Dang. Scarlet, Roland, Bodvar, and then Thatch. I mean, the sword makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. The swords, and then the sword just carried, because now I play Val. I've hopped around between different sword legends.
Yeah. I mean, I, for a long time, recognized you more for your sword than anything else.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, I've had Megdy tell me he's learned stuff from, but when he was growing as a player, he said he took a lot from my sword whenever I was good. And I was like, that's right. I was a good sword player, dude. That's right.
I remember.
Dude, you used to get so mad because I'd sword and air juggle you constantly. I remember because you'd be like, dude, stop hitting me with sword and airs. And I'm like, here's another one for you.
I remember. I actually remember getting on your nerves when I started to figure your sword out. Too.
Oh, your scythe game, like, oh, dude, you used to disgust me. I'd be like, your scythe, dude, I couldn't figure it out. You would hit me once, and I'd be like, dude, this is broken. You're being carried by a broken weapon. And then I figured it out. I was like, oh, I'm just stupid.
Yep.
That's how it went. We used to frustrate each other. Our DMs, you can go back and look at our DMs. It was a lot of anger. And then some cool period where we'd talk about stuff. And then it's like, dude, well, I don't like the... Okay, how's your day going?
If you had like a very small snapshot of some of our DMs, you would think that we hate each other. But me and Gobi have been cool for like the longest time.
Yeah, we don't hate each other. We've always liked each other. We just have very strong emotions sometimes.
Oh man. Oh, we're these episodes, like, we're sadly getting close to the end of our time together. I know. I feel like there's still a lot that we.
There's a ton that I could talk about.
There's definitely a handful of people that I'm gonna have to have on for like a part 2 episod. I think.
Dude, put me in a group episode. Me, you, Double Dime. Let's do it.
I know, right? We're gonna have to do something like that for sure. Well, to wrap us up, the one thing I tend to ask people is, do you have anything that you'd like to just kind of say to the wider community or your fans?
Yes, and the biggest thing that I want to tell everybody who wants to be good at the game is, don't let what other people say affect you. That was one thing that I struggled for the longest time, is that I had other people saying, well, your teammate needs to drop you because you're the weak link on like every team that I've had. So don't let what anybody says bother you, because that will only throw you into absolute chaos, and you're going to start questioning yourself. So find a way to be confident and strong in every opinion that you have in every part of your gameplay, so that you know that you're playing the best way you are. Otherwise, you're going to fall down a hole that is going to be really hard to get out of.
Nice. That's good advice.
It's really good advice.
I like it. Well, Gobi, thanks so much for coming on the show.
I love being here.
I was really excited to do this one. We've been friends for a long time. So,
yeah, you were super OG, so I was like, yeah, nope, Gobi's on the list for sure. So, no, this is a lot of fun, and I'm happy to see you playing the game and enjoying it again. I'm top 8 this year
recently. Oh yeah,
I'm top 8, and I'm going to. I've been grinding so much.
I believe
I'm going to. It's gonna happen.
I want to see it. I think it'll be great. All right, well, thanks for being on the show, and have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching this episode of Brawlhalla Origins. We'll be back next week with another episode. Join our VIP list by signing up at season2.brawlhallaorigins.com to get early access to each episode, special clips, giveaways, and behind-the-scenes updates. See you next week.